Welcome to What Makes You Shine. What Makes You Shine is all about great people who do amazing work. By shining, they help other people find their shine. My name is Steph Lloyd. I'm a coach, a homeopath, and a bioenergetic practitioner. I love the work that I am fortunate to do every day. Today, I'm speaking to the wonderful Julie Rossner. Julie is a trauma transformational therapist. This is an amalgamation of different practices that Julie managed to combine over the course of her career. Since using this method, she has witnessed people overcoming trauma almost instantly. So over to you. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Steph. Thanks for having me today.
Good. Very excited to have you today.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So I was just kind of sat here in my seat, really, just kind of thinking about what you were saying. And it's like you say, we're really lucky to be able to discuss our therapies. And we are in a wonderful place where, where we can discuss and put this forward to other people that haven't always necessarily heard about our work. And the way that we do that is through our passions, through our work, because we've seen such amazing results. And I think I came about, so I started to call it rapid trauma transformational therapy many years ago. And it was when I first started working, this is probably going back about, 15, 16 years ago. And it was when I started working with people that had dissociative personalities disorders. So people that had been horrendously abused in their younger years. And a lot of them were experiencing post-traumatic stress. And it was working with these people whilst they were obviously in a traumatic state, whilst they were experiencing panic attacks and flashbacks. And then I found that by working with somebody in a flashback, because what was happening is that they were starting to have amazing recall. And because then you were working with somebody that had this most amazing recall, and that they were able to describe to me smells, they were able to describe to me the room perfectly, that where they received where the abuse actually had happened, and their recall was amazing. And it gave me so much descriptive value that I felt that I could share that experience with them. And I mean, it was the insight into it was fantastic. But not only that, but we found then that was actually when we could give them the best support. And we were able to speak to them at that moment in time, and they were able to describe to me what was happening to them as if it was happening in the there and that, in the here and now. And it was obviously I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And then realizing that actually that you can actually change a person's reality, not into the extent where you're changing it detrimentally, but to a point where you can change somebody's realm of belief and thinking in an instant with empowerment. Because it was at that point, then rather than them actually facing the abuse, they were then able to face the abuser. So they were recreating moments of trauma where they could actually go back and speak to the perpetrator. So they were there facing, like in the moment. And it was actually fantastic, because even though at that particular time I was doing a lot of telephone counseling, so this was just by ear, that I was starting to work with this. And I mean, eventually I then obviously went on to work with people face to face, a lot more so, as in working with this sort of technique. And it's fantastic because then you can check out safety with people, because you're looking at their body language, you're checking out body language, and you're seeing people overcome, and you can see every tissue, every bone, every fiber in their body working towards fighting not fighting the perpetrator, but challenging the perpetrator, challenging the demon. And they were able to see themselves as bigger, as stronger, as somebody more powerful, as somebody that could actually face their own issues, their own beliefs. And just in that moment, by being able to do that, because you're working at such a level. So when we take somebody down to that level, I'll tell you more about that in a minute, the levels that I take people down to, but because you're taking somebody down to somebody that's like like in an alpha or a theta kind of state, when you're looking at sort of a meditational kind of state, that's where sort of dream recall is. And that's obviously where we access the subconscious.
Yeah,
but
so that creates a real memory. Does it create a real memory in their mind, in their subconscious mind?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. You're absolutely there. They're going back to that state, which is very, very similar to a flashback, except a flashback is triggered by trauma. So you're sent there and into a space and moment of time.
Out of control. Yeah, and you're out of control, I suppose, in a trauma, as in this one.
Yes,
they're taking control.
Yeah, totally. And it's absolutely mind blowing, because you're seeing something that's working so efficiently and so effectively before your eyes. I mean, even now, it still blows my mind. It absolutely still blows my mind. So when I first started working with it, I just couldn't believe, especially working with these people that have been through this horrendous abuse as children, and they're suddenly then getting in contact and then changing the realms of that memory. And so it sounds like we're faking the memory. We're not faking the memory. What we're doing is we're empowering the person in the moment, and people need to have that in their lives, because they need to know that they can actually have more power as an adult, or more power as somebody that's had all of that power and that control taken from them. And and that obviously affects that, that affects our low self-esteem, that affects our confidence, that affects the way that we see the world, that affects our internal lives and our interpersonal relationships. And and that's when we see obviously a lot of mental health, antidepressants, and that sort of road. And if we can combat that now at our levels, working with our practices, what we're doing, then it's fantastic to see people just move on with their lives. And even if it's just for an instant, even if it's just for a few, I don't know, just for a few minutes, where they're getting in touch with something that maybe they've always known that was there, but they've never really had the power to look at. Sometimes just visiting there for a moment and just knowing that they're only visiting rather than actually being stuck there is just amazing.
So are they remembering things that they didn't remember, or is they?
Well, so it's actually quite okay. So the subconscious mind is absolutely fantastic. So a lot of the time when we're visiting trauma, is we can take somebody back, and we can take somebody back to. So this is where it combines where we're looking at shamanic journeying. So when we're taking somebody down, so when we're relaxing somebody, to say a theta or an alpha state, we'll go in through something called intent. So which is the same as a shamanic journeying. So we're going through doors, we're creating doors, and we're taking people through mind doors with intent to explore whilst we're in that session. And that can be anything that somebody wants to look at. So it can be something that they're carrying a certain anger feeling, they've carried it for their lives, they don't know why they're carrying that, and they want to go back and explore that. So sometimes it can be just that actually I want to understand why I'm so angry. I'm angry all the time. And then what we'll do is we'll concentrate on the anger feeling. I'll create a scenario such as relaxing somebody, creating a door in which then they can explore behind that door their own mind recall. So we're kind of looking at a space and an environment where they're creating their own content. So that anger feeling will then, if so long as it's concentrated on, and so long as we stay with it, rather than moving away with it, because to move away would be to create avoidance, which only makes something bigger. But by staying with it, what you're doing is you're invoking the feeling even more so. And your body is fantastic. It has cellular memory. We carry memory in all of our cells, which obviously with the bioresonance work that you do, Steph. So it carries a memory cell, and sometimes people can't actually remember the actual story or what actually happened, or the narrative. It's just the feeling. So
the body is really great at making us forget that for protection, right?
Absolutely. But the mind and the body are the most interesting, fantastic things I think ever. That, again, like you say, I think about these things sometimes, and I see it in operation, and I'm still mind blown. All the body wants to do is to protect us. We're great survivalists, but sometimes our coping mechanisms that our bodies create or that we create to survive at that particular time run out, and they're no longer useful to us, and that's when they become detrimental, and that's when mental health can occur as well. So it's by sticking with something, by staying with something, by invoking. So say if somebody felt that something, I don't know, say they had an argument with their father, or maybe their father passed away, say at the age of 8 years old, and they never got to say goodbye to their father. So what happens is then I can maybe take them back to their intent, so to that question that they wanted to know. And generally people are quite amazing. So what will happen is, so because obviously you have the seed of the intent, then you have the seed of the feeling that that person is already holding, then they generally takes them back to a very, very distant memory, where they can either remember the house, the park, the scene, the smells, and they can actually be put back into a situation. And what will happen is we'll explore that situation. And generally somebody that's been through, like we were saying, like for grief, they'll see dad, and they'll be able to spend some time with dad, and they'll see dad as he was, whether he was, a smiling gentleman, and he always dressed in a waistcoat and a pair of jeans and a tie, and they'll see him as he is. But the great thing is that they can speak to him and ask questions. They can ask questions, and if they want to, they can say goodbye, they can have a cuddle, they can have something that they've longed to do in such a state, such a memorial state, that their body believes it, they believe it.
Yeah.
And it's the most fantastic release. And it's at that moment in time that obviously when you bring somebody back out, it's something wonderful to see, because somebody actually feel like they've been able to say goodbye to their loved ones. And
that's so huge. That's so huge, because so many people don't get the chance to say goodbye. So
no, they don't.
Grief can be carried for a long time over that.
Yeah, and it is. It's, I mean, just that alone. I mean, we've worked. We've worked on. There's so many different. Working with bereavements, working with a lot of sexual abuse, working with domestic violence, working with people that just want to develop their careers. So a lot of the time it's recreating or looking to see where those blocks are. So taking somebody back as to where that feeling come from. And I think when we carry a feeling with us, especially in our personal states today, you'll generally find, especially if it's overpowering, that it's come back from somewhere else many, many moons ago. So it's going back. Yeah, so we're looking to uncover where that's come from and why it's so profound in our lives now. And it's generally because we've taken it forward and we've never really uncovered it. We've never really looked at it. We've never challenged it. We've never paid homage to it, because I believe it is paying homage to something, because I believe that whatever we are overcoming is a gift. Yeah. Because I know the saying, about being stronger when challenging things. I really believe that's true. And it is their gift.
Yeah. So can you work with people who haven't experienced trauma? Can you work, like you were saying, to improve their career or something like that? Can you work with people who have got limiting beliefs, say, around money or finding a partner or love, the love of their lives? Can you help them with that as well?
Absolutely. So I've worked with a few people actually working with developing their careers, and we actually found where their beliefs came from. So the belief that they weren't good enough to earn money, or they weren't they didn't believe, in one of the cases, one of the women didn't believe that as a female that she wasn't worthy of money. And it was actually a cultural thing. So obviously, without giving too much, without saying too much about this lady, this lady had come from a culture where women were sort of second class, and paid, were very dutiful to their husbands and to the hierarchy of their families. And so they were kind of always seen but not heard. So she had taken forward this belief with her for many, many years and had actually taken this into her working practice, even though she was a fabulous therapist, absolutely fantastic therapist. And she actually, at that particular time, she hadn't been earning a lot of money because she hadn't believed that she was worthy of that money. And I mean, eventually, I mean, this lady does feedback to me every now and then, and I know that she's doing very, very well. She's starting to earn quite a lot of money. She's able to advertise herself now and be in the glory of her own womanhood, of being of her own feminine energy, which is something obviously she lacked, because obviously being in that sort of scenario back from her culture, obviously she never had that and was never given that. So she's now, she's now able to move forward in her career. But not only that, it's bled into other aspects of her life. So it's bled into the family, because obviously her confidence is heightened. It's bled into the way with her with the working, not with her, with her family relationships, obviously with her working relationships, and just the way that she sees herself. I mean, she was a lady that was quite tomboy-y, and nothing wrong with tomboy, because we all like a tomboy. But she's now started to wear, you know, a little bit of mascara and a tiny little bit of lipstick and dressing more feminine and stuff like that. I mean, so it's, I mean, don't get me wrong, she's doing an awful lot of work on herself as well. But I think this type of work is, it's the catalyst. It's the real catalyst for changing views, for changing beliefs, for empowering in the moment.
So tell us a bit more what happens in a session. Can you take us through a session?
Okay, so yeah, I can take you through a session. So first of all, if I kind of tell you sort of the therapies that I've kind of combined. Yes. So it took a long, it's about 22 years ago. So I trained as a counselor and a psychotherapist, and it opened doors for me. It opened my mind. I found it so intriguing. I loved you know, the human psychology and human behaviors anyway, so that's what got me really intrigued and fascinated. And I myself had been to see a therapist at that time, and what I found was, I think as you'll find in all arenas, that there wasn't too many. I think I'd met, out of some of the therapists, I had met obviously some good ones, and I had met some not so good ones, and the good ones that I met were quite visual. So I knew that I was very visual at the time, and I thought, okay, wow, this is really working. I really, really like this. And then, so that was sort of impregnated into sort of my working practice as well. So I thought, okay, I really like to say I became very Gestalt. He's quite creative.
Tell us what Gestalt is. What is Gestalt? Sorry.
So so Gestalt is an amazing therapeutic practice that's very, very creative. He believes in a beginning and an end, and generally what we can create obviously within this session is a beginning and an end, and it's through this beginning and end. And it's not always obviously within the session we have this beginning and the end. Sometimes it does tail off and we have a couple of sessions, but you're working with the one issue, and it's a completion of that issue. And that's when we believe as a Gestalt practitioner that issue is finished, it's completed, it's been explored, it's been looked at, and now it can be put away. So, and that can take you know, a series of meetings, but a lot of the time we're finding that we can complete this just in the one session, which is why it's so remarkable. And obviously, and if there's any other issues surrounding that, because obviously whenever we're looking at issues, it's always like an onion effect. I think therapists always use that onion effect. You know, it's like delayering the onion and then going back, and then in the core of the onion, you know, you find the real nitty gritty, and that's what we sort of pick out. So after obviously working with the people with the dissociative personalities, I realized I'm obviously looking at the visuals, and then going back and recreating this flashback, so to speak, that these visuals were really, really, really important for somebody to having obviously the fantastic recall, but actually challenging and working in that moment. And I obviously go back to believing that obviously when we're there, when we're kind of obviously working that alpha delta state, that we're actually truly working with our cellular memory of our bodies as well. And we're creating new memorable pathways in our brain. So we're looking at new ways to overcome and to over-empower ourselves. And then, so that was kind of a bit of a tick list at the time. And then I started, a friend of mine taught me shamanic journeying, and I realized then, not that we work with the beat of the drums, that's something yet to look at, but to be honest with you, I mean, there's some fantastic shamanic healers out there, you know, that are absolutely brilliant. Yes, totally. And, you know, and I've spoken to a couple of them, and you know, and they've been really, really helpful, because that also creates that visual patterning, you know, that visual experience where you're there, where you're in the here and now, where your body and your mind are seeing it in the moment. And I couldn't believe, so when I did my first shamanic journey, it was like somebody had turned a light bulb on for me. It was like, oh my goodness, I'm here and I'm asking questions. And even though I'm seeing things in a different format, and it's not actually relating to, or the visuals that I'm seeing aren't actually recreating the same experience as if I was in a flashback. What's happening is I'm still able to deal with that experience, but it's just in a different form, in a different visual form. So, but you were still able to work. And sometimes that's really, really helpful for people, especially that people have undergone massive, massive trauma. So sometimes, especially when you're looking at people that have created new identities and their memories are encapsulated around something so horrific, that sometimes when they can't go back and look at that, sometimes if you can do something where it's projected, or yes, projected onto something else that's another image, but something that they can still look at their own feelings, is just as powerful. Because sometimes we can't directly look at what happened, but we can still feel, and we can still manage and deal with whatever happened to us through another visual experience, such as shall I give you an example?
Yes, please.
Okay, so one of the examples, very, very quickly, so one of the examples was doing one of my very first experiences with shamanic journeying. I went down a wormhole. I ended up into the streets of London, just plonked in the middle of the streets of London. And I'm there, and I'm outside a door. I'm outside an old London pub door, and I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing here? Why am I here? And it felt so real. And I'm looking around, and the street's completely empty. And I know that I have to go in through this door. So I go through the door, and nobody in the pub. Again, it's just completely empty. And I walk behind the bar. I don't know what I was doing behind the bar. And I'm asking questions the whole time. What am I doing here? Why am I here? And at that time, I think my intent was, I think I was feeling quite low, and I wanted to know what was happening to my body, why I was feeling low. And I just wanted a healing as well. I just wanted a healing. So I went behind the back of this bar, and there was like this trap door, so that was closed, and I had to open it, so it was leading down to the cellar. So I went down to the cellar, and on the walls it was just this murky brown tarry stuff. And I mean, it was dank, it was dark, it was scary, it was, you know, it wasn't nice, it wasn't pleasurable to be there. And I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing here? So I'm just shouting out, you know, what am I doing here? What's happening? And then I knew I could see what it was. This was how I was feeling inside. I was feeling stagnant. I was feeling like sticky toffee, you know, like I was procrastinating. I felt like I was in dankness, because, you know, at that time I was quite unmotivated, and I just knew that, you know, I had to cleanse. So all, you know, in my arms appears this huge, great big water hydrant, and I'm gushing water out of this hydrant, and I'm cleaning the walls, and this sticky toffee is just falling off the walls, and it's disintegrating, and it's dispersing, and it's, you know, it's gone. And I just sat there. I think I just sat there on the cellar floor, and I'm just looking around, and it was like a shiny new pin, like a shiny new penny, sorry. Yeah. And it's just there. I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is just really cleansing. And I just knew what was happening to me then. I knew then that I was unmotivated. I knew then that I was stagnant. So not only by visualizing this, by actually steeping myself into that visual, that feeling, by connecting the two, you come to a realization, okay, this is what I need to move from. And it did. I mean, I realized then actually the things that I needed to do to move myself forward. You know, I did take myself out of the pub, back out again, and we go back through doors and we give appreciation and everything else. And so in a shamanic journey, you always have an entry and an exit. You know, you have and you say thank you, which is obviously lovely to do with appreciation as well. So yes, so I thought, okay, so I can use this in my practice. This is absolutely amazing. I'm really liking this. So I took that forward as well, because I just thought that the two combined were just absolutely fantastic. And then obviously with your own therapies as well, with my own counseling and psychotherapy, at that time I felt, even though I had learned what I needed to learn, so I learned the fundamentals of those practices, which obviously you know, looking at person-centered and Gestalt. So I knew that I needed to keep them, and Eric Burns, and looking at, you know, how we relate to other people, or, you know, transactional therapy. So I knew that I wanted to keep the essence of those, especially person-centered, because my practice is, you know, is very person-centered. I'm very guided by the clients. I'm very watchful over the client. I'm very checking, you know, forever checking. You've got to check out all of the time, you know, because when somebody is there, you do have to be careful, because it is very, very real to them. It's extremely real to them, and sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes it can be so enlightening, and somebody can walk away, you know, from the day, and they can be extremely happy. It can be enlightening for them, you know, they can walk with a skip and a jump. Sometimes obviously they're going to be reaching depths that are so scary for them, and that's frightening for them. So of course I need to keep checking. I need to make sure that they're safe. I need to make sure that they're okay and that they're all right, and look at the best way forward and how to overcome that. So, you know, not everyone, in fact, you know, a lot of people here do leave with a lot of tears and, you know, a lot of homework and stuff like that. And then obviously, and I think it's in cases like that we obviously need to revisit, because leaving somebody, unless they can look at other ways in which that can be resolved. So yes, it is an opening, it is a catalyst. So what other ways do we work? So I'm kind of run by how, so when working with children, we use a lot of play, a lot of visual play with children. So when we're working with very, very young children, it's a lot of visual play, a lot like art therapy and stuff like that. But we can work with things like toys, and we can work with anything, actually. You can work with absolutely anything for the child. So you can be using hand puppets, you can be using hats. I've used hats before in the past and turned it into a hand puppet. So I think so long as you're creating a visual creative space, and you're capturing somebody's mind, I think people are more likely to open up.
So are your clients in a trance or in a hypnosis kind of state when this is going on?
So when we go back to so I wouldn't usually work that way with young children. So with older,
no, let's say adult, so
with adults. So with adults, yes. So what we're doing is we're well done for retracking me there, Steph. So yes, so it is. So what we're doing is I'm able to relax somebody to a certain state. We look at the intent, and then I relax somebody to a certain state. So we're taking them through the throughs of their mind and through the relaxation of their body to a point where they're able to access their subconscious. And obviously we're looking at areas like, well, frequencies like theta and alpha. And those sort of frequencies, mind frequencies, are when somebody does very, very deep meditation. That's where recall is at its best, really. And that's when you can access very deep into the psyche, very deep into the subconscious. And when somebody's at that relaxed state, and when they're visualizing, and not only that, because I'm guiding them through the doors, downstairs, you know, into safe spaces, then and obviously it's about trusting. Obviously you've got to have a trusting relationship with the person that you're working with. So, you know, guiding down, forever checking, forever reassuring. And then of course, obviously just asking questions, you know, what does it feel like to you? What does the floor feel like to you? So some people can't always visualize. So
yeah, some people are more visual than others, isn't it? So some people finding this difficult to imagine all this, to get their imagination going.
yes, absolutely. And if that happens, you can work in different ways. So I'll kind of know how somebody works. So I don't always work in this way. So I know if somebody obviously can't be relaxed and they're not very visual, then actually we can recreate this completely with their eyes open. And we can bring, obviously looking, if we're doing a lot of inner child work and stuff like that, we can bring in the inner child and we can see that as a physical form. You know, we can bring that person in, and they can sit next to, you know, the person, and they can have a deep conversation that way. Or if they can't see that person, it's just openly expressing what they would like to say to that person. But when we are working at a deeper level, I would say that you're definitely accessing the body more at a cellular level, and I believe that it works faster and quicker. So yeah, so anyway, so when you take somebody down and they're not very visual, if they can't see what you're asking, but they still want to continue with the way that they're working, you can ask them to say, okay, so in your mind's eye, if you just feel like you're taking your shoes off, what does the ground feel like to you? What does it feel? It says we're going to be taking you down some stairs now, but can you feel the stairs with your feet? And a lot of people,
go to different senses, I suppose. So you get different senses working to, depending on what works best for them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Perfectly said, Steph. No, totally.
Yeah.
And
do you work online as well as face to face?
I do work with, actually I do. So I work with a couple of people in America online, and that worked really, really well. I do prefer it in person. I do prefer it face to face, but it still works very well. I've worked with people over the phone where we've managed to achieve this as well. And I'm talking some very deep, traumatic, heinous events that happened to obviously this person back in their lives, and we've done some really, really good work, actually, to the point where this woman was in a psychiatric unit, to the point where actually she left the unit and is now thriving and functioning.
That's amazing.
As you know, a fantastic adult. Yeah, totally. So
yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Julie. That's pretty much all we've got time for today. So where can we find you?
Okay, so so you can find me on where can you find me? So the best thing to do is to call me on 077 920 76677. I'm just getting a website up at the moment. My company's called the People Portal, but the best thing to do, yes, to call me 077 920 76677.
Oh, somebody calling you already. Look at that.
Yeah,
that was very
quick. Fantastic. Amazing.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And
thank you, Steph. Thank you for having me.
If you find Julie and her amazing work, don't hesitate to contact her. I will leave a message. I will leave a link under this video, and also you can always contact me and I will put you in touch with Julie. So brilliant. Have a lovely day, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.